Please welcome the always entertaining Rose McGowan. A pretty young woman.
Thank you.
Now, you're a little odd, too. Because let's talk about the outfit colorful. What about that outfit you wore at the MTV award thing?
Well, I was feeling very Laura Ashley that day. I was feeling a little chintz, a little mauve, you know.
You had your
whole... hello.
There it is. You got your whole... What was that outfit?
Funny. It made me laugh. I don't know. I also was delirious because I had like 103-degree fever and I was on so much Sudafed just trying to get through the day. I was like, yeah. And the dress was sent to me the night before, and I'd actually wanted kind of an Erte vibe on the back, you know, cause an entrance, cause a scene, whatever. But I didn't really realize the front was quite that bare. But then, you know,
it was just like it was like a G-string with a little bit of a front.
It had a little leopard print.
Very nice leopard print.
Thank you.
It was very brave of you to wear something like that. It reminds me of when I wore that really funky red leather thing to the Emmys. Remember that?
Right. The one that pushed.
Yeah, it was really pushing. It was straining at the seams.
Well, this one in the limo on the way there, I had to. It sounds terrible, but I had to kneel so I wouldn't get griddle butt. Girls know what that is. Like in the summer, if they have shorts on, they sit on a chair, and then you get up and you have like, you know, like a waffle print. So I had to sit on my knees with this like thing hiked above me. You know, interesting position.
Yeah, but it was very cute and very shocking, and everybody was like, whoa.
Well, it's a rock show.
Yeah.
So I figured people would be, you know, woo, like freaking it out, and I was the only freak freaking it out.
Well,
that's okay.
Your boyfriend's Marilyn Manson, and he's freaky.
In a special way.
He is freaky, and I think he's brilliant.
He is actually probably one of the smartest people I've ever met. And really, truly thoughtful and extremely centered.
Yeah.
And like most people that are pro-free thought, he's kind of like dangerous to America. So, you know, a lot of like, you're talking about Jerry Falwell, people like that really want to stamp him out.
Why?
They're stupid.
Did they not get how funny it is, or what?
No, I mean, they just add fuel to the fire, you know. And the most ridiculous thing, it's like, you know, when Bob Dole was, you know, going after him, you know, of course he'd never listened to it. Of course he'd never, you know, heard his philosophy. You know, people go, oh, he's the Antichrist. We sit at home killing puppies. You know, no, he's just, like, opposed to forced religion. He's not opposed to any religion. You can do whatever you want as long as you don't shove it down somebody's throat. And, of course, this is America, and we seem to be all about shoving our agenda down somebody else's throat.
How do we get that way? I mean, you're of a younger generation than me. But does, like, your generation look at my generation, just think we're, like, so putrid? Like, I mean, like, don't you think our values are so antiquated and hypocritical and putrid?
Well, I think I think there's certain people that are putrid and hypocritical. And, you know, I used to hold the hopes that, you know, the Senate would change once all these old white-haired fogies would die. And, you know, unfortunately, they train their little kids just to be like them, just as hateful, because I went to school with some really hateful people. You know, some of the schools I went to, it was like, oh, you're different. I had to jump out of the way of cars. They would throw things at me out of cars. You know, I get told I was ugly and a freak every day.
Well, tell us why that is.
I didn't have puffy blonde hair and blue eyeliner or something. This is when I lived in Oregon, which is, you know, land of Tanya Harding. And that's kind of the look. And they're not real welcoming to different people there. I mean, people think of Oregon as kind of like free love hippie. It's, you know, a lot of rednecks. And I've met some people that look on the surface like redneck, but they are some of the most genuine, kind-hearted, great people.
Yeah,
so you
absolutely.
can't really judge them completely from the outside.
But you had like the
some
most
are vicious.
Well, some people of every sort are just really messed up and lost.
Yeah, but
looking
all
for
those
somebody
people
to
liked
blame.
coming after me.
Why do you think you're a freak magnet? Because I am a total freak magnet. Total.
From birth.
Me too. Like they'd always go, there's a girl who will understand. And be gravitated towards telling me they're...
Well, my problem is that there would be, like, the one person at the schoolyard that would be getting the hell beaten out of them, and I would go stick up for them. You know, not that I even knew the person or liked them, but I knew that they were the underdog, and I knew they were being treated unfairly. Then that person would stalk me, the person that I stuck up for. Every single time. I'd be like, Mom, tell him not here.
Well, that's why I was wondering if you thought my generation was a bunch of freaks, because you grew up in, like...
No, you guys pass it on. Thanks.
We do pass it on, don't we?
I hope with each generation a little bit gets filtered out. I mean, so much depends on the parents. You know, I imagine if I grew up in a really bigoted household.
No, you grew up in the weirdest, dysfunctional place in the world. Tell us about it. You had you were in a cult. That's how you were raised.
Yes, I mean, I don't even really remember my parents until I was a bit older because, you know, if you grow up in a house with about 100 people, it's like in the Tom and Jerry cartoons, you just see Mammy's legs, you know, so that was... Someone back there. Oh, that was funny.
What was this cult,
My fan of one.
Tell me about this cult, because it was the same one that River Phoenix and that family was into.
Yeah.
What's the name of it?
Children of God.
Children of God, yeah.
Which, of course, you know, like most people that, you know, use God in their name, kind of twist it to their own purposes. You know, I can take any sentence out of the Bible and twist it to my own fitting.
Right.
I can make anything...
Any sentence, anywhere.
Any sentence, anywhere, anything, you know, suit my purposes. And so basically, it's what your intent is.
That's not a place where you would expect somebody to be raised in that kind of an environment to, like, be into free thought, free thinking.
No, strangely, you know, I mean, that's the weird thing about, I imagine, those kind of things, cults, if you will, just because it's promising, I think, all these legions of people free thought and a different life. But of course, you know, if you break their chain of thought...
Do you have relationships with your mother and father?
I do. They're strange. You know, my mom is a really smart woman, and, you know, it's hard. You know, you're a very smart woman, and you've gone through a lot of things, and maybe your kids have a different perspective of some of the stuff they had to go through because of that.
Oh, they're pretty mad about it, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of crazy stuff that...
But it's pretty interesting that you think it's, I mean, not that it's okay for them to be mad all the time, but you validate the fact that they might have gotten screwed over a bit. Yeah,
because I think it's that our whole 60s generation. I think we, more than any other generation, I think we screwed over our kids worse than anybody. That's my opinion.
I mean, I have to agree with you, to be honest. And I think there's a weird... I was thinking that it must have been such a weird time for women because my mom was raised by the total, like, 50s mother. Right. You know, my mom was born in the 50s and taught, basically, and brought up like her mom was to service men in all areas. I bet you men like that. And, but then, you know, the sexual revolution comes along and you're supposed to be a free woman and on your own and all this.
There was way too much information for any of us.
But it's also, like, what's really ingrained in your DNA is, like, you know, baking cakes at home, but then you're supposed to go do all this other stuff. So it kind of, you know, and I think it was really a me generation, to be honest.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I think people, if they're going to have kids, should put them first.
I think people should put their kids first,
too. And if you can't even conceive of doing that, don't have them.
Yeah, but you don't even know that you don't even know that you're, I mean, your parents probably didn't even think that raising kids in a cult was...
And they probably thought it was, you know, they thought it was great.
What did you learn about the world?
I learned, well, actually at a very early age. I mean, I remember all these people drilling weird things into me. Like, they had all these weird rules, like, I had to sit on my bed all day long when I was 6 and learn how to snap my fingers, otherwise God wasn't going to teach me to drive a car when I was 16. And even at a very early age, I was like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Maybe I was saying that in Italian at the time. It's like, and basically a lot of these things that these people were preaching, you know...
it's just about control, isn't it?
It was about control, but it was also, like, I really, when I was very... I mean, I remember being 5 and thinking, okay, I'm going to live through all of this stuff. Probably when I'm about 19, I'll have to have a lot of therapy, but then I'll be okay. I really did. I was a very strange child. I was, like, very...
I want to talk more about that when we come back, because I had that very same feeling growing up, too. Yeah, I'll just get a lot of therapy, and I did. More with Rose when we come back.
You're the one in the corner at the dances that the geeks won't dance with. There's nothing to hide, Fern. You're nothing. We're everything. You're the shadow. We're the sun. But I'm here to offer you something you never dared dream of. Something that you were never meant to be, but will be. Because today, Fern, my dear, fate has decided that you are cool. We're gonna make you one of us.